Welcome back to this special edition of Arirang News. We've been bringing you live coverage of U.S. President Trump's visit to South Korea today. And just a few hours ago, as the world closely observed, Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un shook hands, even crossing the military demarcation line over to the north. A 1-hour-long summit followed the historic encounter, which Trump assessed as legendary. Following the summit, President Trump and President Moon Jae-in officially confirmed that the stalled nuclear talks will resume between Pyongyang and Washington, saying that working-level talks will take place in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Now, President Trump has one last schedule in South Korea, which is addressing the U.S. troops at Osan Air Base before flying back to the U.S. For more on the latest developments, let's now bring in our political correspondent Shin Se-min. Kim Jong-un of North Korea and President Trump of the U.S. during a bilateral summit between leaders Moon and Trump this morning. The two allies had assured the world that the meeting North Korea's Kim Jong-un at the border of the two Koreas will pave the way for a more peaceful Korean peninsula. For more, here's our Shin Se-min.
History in the making. What seemed to be an impromptu invitation on Twitter from U.S. President Donald Trump to North Korea's Kim Jong-un has become a reality.
사상 최초로 미국과 북한의 정상이 분단의 상징 판문점에서 마주서서 평화를 위한 악수를 하게 될 것입니다.
It's the third time for Kim and Trump to meet, and the first time since their summit this past February in Hanoi. The two leaders are meeting at the demilitarized zone separating the two Koreas, accompanied by South Korean leader Moon Jae-in. And President Trump also feeling very optimistic about the meeting.
What we're doing today is a step, and probably it's a step in the right direction. There's a good feeling, so it could be very good. As far as another meeting, I think let's see what happens today before we start thinking about that. But it could be very important.
One other possibility was a three-way summit. However, President Moon put the spotlight on Kim and Trump and their meeting.
오늘 이 중심은 북미 간의 대화입니다. 트럼프 대통령님과 북한 김정은 위원장과의 상봉 그리고 대화 또 그것이 앞으로 계속된 북미 대화로 이어져 나가는 그 과정으로서 큰 의미가 있다고 생각합니다.
Moon noted that he was invited to join Trump at the DMZ, but he said inter-Korean talks will be held at a later time. The DMZ meeting was expected to be brief, but even so, the leaders Moon and Trump were confident that it will help pave the way for more progress in the nuclear talks between Pyongyang and Washington. South Korea's presidential spokesperson in a readout said that Trump relayed appreciation for President Moon's active role as a peacemaker, noting a drastic shift in mood on the Korean peninsula from 2 years ago. Adding to that, Trump thanked Moon for a good partnership and said although it's a rocky road ahead, he believes things will turn out just fine. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
History has been made. U.S. President Donald Trump met with Kim Jong-un at the border village of Panmunjom in the demilitarized zone today. Let's connect once more with our Kan Young-woo at the Unification Bridge on the road to the border village of Panmunjom. Young-woo, tell us about Trump's trip to the DMZ.
Tan, indeed, it was historic to say the least. U.S. President Donald Trump crossed the military demarcation line at the joint security area and shook hands with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on the North Korean side of the border, becoming the first U.S. leader to do so. Kim in return crossed the border onto South Korean soil, and there Trump invited the North Korean leader to the White House.
A lot of really positive things are happening, and I'm glad you could be here to see it. But tremendous positivity. Really great things are happening, and in a lot of places. But we met and we liked each other from day one, and that was very important.
이 트럼프 대통령께서 분리선을 넘어서 가시는 건 다시 말하면 좋지 않은 그 과거를 청산하고 앞으로 좋은 밤날을 개척하려는 트럼프 대통령의 그 남다른 영단의 그 필요했다고 생각합니다.
So the two leaders were joined by President Moon for a brief moment before going into the Freedom House on the southern side of the border. A closed-door bilateral meeting between Trump and Kim lasted about an hour, and Trump again stressed that he's in no rush. He said he and Kim Jong-un have a great relationship and that they had a really, really good meeting.
So we don't know what these two leaders discussed, but indeed it was a monumental point in the history of both the U.S. and North Korea. But before Kim and Trump met, President Moon took a DMZ tour with the U.S. leader. Tell us more about that.
Well, Tom, before meeting up with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, Presidents Moon and Trump went to observation post OLED, just south of the borderline separating the two Koreas, where U.S. presidents in the past have visited while visiting the DMZ.
한미 양국의 대통령들이 또 공장지대를 함께 방문한 것은 사상 처음 있는 일입니다.
Well, I want to thank you very much. You're a very special group of people. Just looking to you, look how healthy and how strong and how good. And we really appreciate it. We appreciate it very much.
Moon and Trump spent brief moments meeting with American and South Korean troops at Camp Boniface, thanking them for their dedication and service. Now, Trump has left the DMZ on a helicopter to go to Osan Air Base. It's the last schedule on his official visit to South Korea for the last 2 days. So we'll keep you more updated on that at our later newscast. Back to you, Dan.
Thank you, Hyung-woo, for that. So history has been made. We have seen major developments this afternoon among the leaders of the two Koreas and the U.S. For further analysis, let's once again bring in Dr. Ko Myung-hyun of the Osan Institute for Policy Studies, as well as Arirang's Unification Ministry correspondent, Oh Jung-hee. Now, before I jump into questions for you guys on the screen, we are receiving live feeds from the Osan Air Base, where President Trump is expected to arrive shortly to address the U.S. troops there. Now, Dr. Ko, I want to start with you. What was your overall assessment of basically all the developments today, from Seoul, Washington summit to the historic encounter and also the joint press briefing that followed?
Well, clearly the highlight of today's event has been the meeting, three-way meeting encounter between President Trump, South Korean President Moon Jae-in, and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. But starting from the ROK-U.S. summit this morning, this morning's event has been went according to our expectations. President Trump remarked that the alliance is strong, and then he's trying his best to maintain the dialogue going and all that. So it's along the line of what we had expected. So there's no surprise there. But then one of the real surprise was the actual three-way encounter that took place later. And even I think a lot of people expected that it wouldn't happen, even until the very last minute, because of the North Korean. Usually North Korea doesn't tend to surprise in many ways, and sometimes negatively. And I think some people believe that President Trump could be left standing up by himself without Kim Jong-un showing up. But that didn't happen, and it was a great surprise and great success, I would say, especially for President Trump. Clearly, this encounter was organized at the very last minute, but still the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un showed up, which is actually very surprising. And then even further from there, some people expected that this encounter would be just an encounter, like a very short encounter. And I think President Trump contributed to that by playing down the expectation about this meeting. But then this encounter continued to actually became an hour-long summit, essentially. We don't know how in-depth the conversation went, but despite this, the optics of it is very overwhelming. It sends a very clear message to all the actors involved, pretty much. First of all, there's a message sent to China. I think in many ways, this meeting totally overwhelms the impact of the Chinese President Xi's visit to Pyongyang a couple of weeks ago. And also there's a message to South Korea. South Korea actually came out looking I mean, this is a mixed bag in a way because the South Korean president essentially ended up being a facilitator, and that was it. I mean, wasn't able to participate in the dialogue between the two leaders. But nonetheless, I think he was seen as South Korea, he brought back South Korea into this dialogue game that's going on between Washington and Pyongyang. So it was actually, I think overall was a positive outcome for South Korea. And also it's a message to the hardliners in the U.S. administration. I mean, clearly their boss, President Trump, wants to have this dialogue to continue. And I think that's the reason why he said that after the meeting with Kim Jong-Un wrapped up, that's the reason why he said that this encounter will lead to on a working level meeting in 2 or 3 weeks' time. And I believe that the tone of the working level meeting this time will be different from the previous one. I think it will be less confrontational. But I think the United States is going to come out with a more flexible position. I mean, how flexible, we don't know, but then I think that will be the case.
Now we can hear live cheers from the U.S. troops at the Osan Air Base, where President Trump is expected to arrive shortly to give an address. So although President Moon Jae-in didn't participate in the summit, it is true, it is clear that the South Korean government has laid the groundwork for the two leaders, the U.S. president and the North Korean leader, to meet. Now, Jong-I, could you walk us through the Kim-Trump meeting at the Panmunjom this afternoon, from how they met to how they departed?
Of course. U.S. President Donald Trump arrived at Panmunjom, and he actually had a brief encounter with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un near the military demarcation line at around 3:45. They first shook hands, just like how President Trump first proposed on his Twitter. And then Trump crossed the border into the north. He walked up to the Panmun Hall, which is the building at the very center of the Panmunjom in the North Korean side. They shook hands, they took a photo, and then North Korea's chairman Kim Jong-un came back down to the South Korean territory with U.S. President Donald Trump. And then they went into the Freedom House in the South Korean territory, where the leaders of Pyongyang and Washington had over an hour of their separate session, and South Korean President Moon Jae-in had to wait in a separate room. So in their hour-long talk, they agreed that a working level session has to take place between the two countries to make progress in their denuclearization talks. And then they came out of the building, they said bye. The leaders of South Korea, North Korea, and the U.S. shared their final goodbyes. And then North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un went back to the regime. And after that, President Trump revealed that Pyongyang and Washington are set to kick off some working level talks in 2 or 3 weeks' time. So personally, I personally think that a key takeaway from this meeting is that Chairman Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump, in the end, used their personal friendship once again to make progress in this denuclearization talks. 10 days ago, Kim Jong-un sent a letter to Trump. A few days ago, Trump sent a letter to Kim, and that was a show of their personal friendship. And once again, the leaders met once again to make a breakthrough in this stalemate and this deadlock of the nuclear negotiations. So I think that's another noteworthy point in today's brief encounter in the truce village of Panmunjom.
Two weekends and the world didn't end.
Now, Dr. Ko, some were skeptical whether the historic encounter between Trump and Kim Jong-un would actually lead to further concrete steps and reset the dialogue. But the Presidents Moon and Trump have officially confirmed that talks will resume between Pyongyang and Washington, at least on the working level. Can we expect more substance this time on the details of denuclearizing North Korea?
Well, clearly there should be more substance this time around. Because this is like the third time that North Korea and the United States are trying to restart the dialogue and somehow come out with like a feasible and then significant outcome. So I think, doesn't mean that the follow-up working level meeting will have to address the entirety of this denuclearization agenda with North Korea. But I think the tone of the meeting will be more important. I think if United States is more displays a more flexible approach in a more of a listening mode to what the North Koreans have to to talk. And ask. I think that's going to set up good mood for the subsequent work planning meetings. I think that's going to be the most important feature characteristic that we have to look out for.
Now, from the live video feed, we can hear some loud rock music. It looks like President Trump will make a grand entrance soon to address the U.S. troops at the Osan Air Base. We are just minutes away from President Trump's address to the U.S. troops at Osan Air Base. You can hear loud cheers of the U.S. soldiers, the U.S. troops, while they wait for their president to arrive. So back to you, Dr. Cole. President Trump has said, let me just point out that the helicopter President Trump, Marine One, President Trump has just arrived at the base, and we are expecting President Trump to exit the helicopter in just a few minutes. I can really hear this vibe over there with the loud rock music. My style, actually. I am in love with loud rock music. So this is a very American way of making an entrance. Looks like a grand and cheerful entrance of President Trump will be seen in just a few minutes. Again, we can see the helicopter Marine One, in which President Trump is seated. President Trump has just arrived at Osan Air Base to address the U.S. troops. And again, I am loving the music. Now, Dr. Kool, President Trump, after wrapping up his summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-Un, has said that the working level talks will be led by U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Stephen Biegun. But North Korea had been openly discontent about Biegun, along with U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. How do you think North Korea will react to the fact that Washington's lineup of nuclear negotiators remains unchanged?
Well, I think the North Koreans are looking more at the message rather than the messenger here. despite the fact that they, put their finger at, name names in this case of Secretary Pompeo and National Security Advisor Bolton and Special Representative Biegun. But then for the North Koreans, it's all about the message. If the same people come to the meeting with a different set of message that's more pliable and more friendly towards North Korea, I think North Koreans will receive them in open arms. I don't think they have hard feelings towards that.
Now, Jong-Hee, we're hearing that President Moon Jae-in was not able to join the meeting, and this Panmunjom encounter ended up being a bilateral summit between North Korea and the U.S. and not a trilateral one. Did you see this coming? Were there anything that North Korean media reports have hinted? But before you answer that, we can see on the screen U.S. President Trump making a grand entrance as U.S. troops give him a loud applause and a big cheer to greet their president. What kind of message do you think that Trump will deliver during his address now?
Well, I think here, basically he's been sticking to his talking points pretty much throughout the day. We have to remember that he essentially tells the story of Korean Peninsula in a way that's just centered around him, that there's a before and after him. Before him, all about tension, not even chaos, but tension, conflict, and then bad mood, as he put it. But after him, it's totally different. Essentially, he's putting in this narrative and center around him, and he somehow packages himself as the savior of the situation in the Korean Peninsula. And President Moon is actually pays a lip service to that kind of statements too. So I think he's going to make the same point here that the things are changed because of him, and then he's going to also pay praise to Chairman Kim. And in this way, he can actually highlight the special personal connection that he has with Kim Jong-un and how central that is to the ongoing diplomacy between the two countries and how that will somehow lead to a successful outcome to the negotiations. So I think these will be the three main talking points it's going to stick to, and obviously the bonus of congratulating the U.S. troops here for the good job well done and all that. And I think that's going to be the centrality of the message.
Well, Mr. Trump is always full of surprises, and this address in particular comes immediately following his legendary, as he described it, summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-Un. So it'll be very interesting to hear what he has to say. Visiting U.S. President Trump will make a speech to the U.S. troops in just a few minutes. This is President Trump's second official state visit to South Korea since taking office, and he has become the first U.S. president to actually step on North Korean soil by crossing the border of the military demarcation line. Looks like President Trump is about to speak. Let's listen in.
Thank you very much, Osan. Thank you very much. This is great. Oh, that sounds good. But the other actually even sounds better, I have to say. Thank you very much. And at ease, everybody. We're going to have some fun. So we're about 2.5 hours late. I understand instead of losing people, you actually gained people. I don't know how that works, but I know it works. Got a hell of a lot of people here, a lot of great military people. So it was a little unexpected. We'll tell you, we're not going to, oh, look at all that media back there. Wow, that's a lot of media. That's a lot. We have a lot of media following us. We're doing a great job, and I'll tell you, you're doing a great job, and so important. But the reason I met with Kim Jong-Un, and we had a great meeting, because we're all in this together. We want to get this thing solved. It's been going on for a long time. And we had a great meeting, and it was unexpected. I put out yesterday, maybe I'll meet with Chairman Kim, and he saw it, social media. Pretty powerful thing, social media. And we just left, and I said, you know, this was unexpected, and we're going to keep a lot of thousands of great military people waiting, but that's what you do. You love your country, and that was a good thing to do, right? I said, they'll understand. They'll understand, right? I said, they'll understand. So I'm thrilled to be here this afternoon with the very heroic men and women of the U.S. Air Force, Korea, and great place, great country, beautiful country, and I've toured it all. You know, someday I'm going to get back home, too. I've been doing this for a long time now. It's been a long time. It's been days, and I left Japan. I met with every leader, presidents, prime ministers, dictators. I met them all. And our country's doing well. You know, our country's probably never had a better economy than we have right now. Never had. We're doing great. And it's nice to know you're doing. You know, you're fighting. You're a great people. And you're fighting hard, and you're just your presence. You have a presence like no other. Like no other. So as president, I've no great honor than to serve as Commander-in-Chief of the greatest fighting force on the face of the earth, the United States military. Thank you very much. So when I met with, as you know, President Moon also, we just, in fact, he just called me again. He's so happy. He's so thrilled. And we met at the DMZ. And it was something incredible. I got to see the DMZ. I got to see a lot of your fighting comrades. And we talked to them. In fact, I gave one little speech to a group of guys. I gave another little speech to a group. Then I met with Chairman Kim. Then I came out. Then I met with President Moon. Then I gave another speech to a group of guys. And now I'm giving a speech to a big group of people. And a good-looking group. But it's really very... We had a very productive meeting. I outlined the incredible prosperity that awaits North Korea when this whole thing gets settled. They've been talking about this for a long time. but that's a country with tremendous potential. And I've had a good relationship with Chairman Kim. You know that. You see what's happening. It's been a lot different. They were giving us a great briefing right at the DMZ, and they said it was so different before we had the meeting, the big summit in Singapore. It was different. It was really hostile. You understand it better than anybody. It was really hostile. And since our first meeting in Singapore, we got along. We got along. We had a great kind of feeling. And when you go back home, you'll see it tonight on television. You'll see it wherever you see it. Today, there's so many forms of looking at things, it's hard to believe. As soon as you pick one, another one comes up, and the first one is obsolete. But whichever way you look, you're going to see some really nice sights. I actually stepped in with Chairman Kim. I stepped into North Korea. And they say that's a very historic moment, and I think it is a historic moment, and a very good moment. And he asked me, would you like to do that? And I said it would be my honor, and we did, and we went over the line and turned around, and everybody was so happy. And many people, I noticed, from Korea were literally in tears, crying, because it's a big thing. It's a big thing. And we're now going to work on something. We have a tremendous team of people that know how to do this, and we're going to put them in charge. And Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is here. Where's Mike? Is he here? Where's Mike? Where's our Secretary of State? Mike, come up here, Mike. Come up, Mike. And you know who else I have? Has anyone ever heard of Ivanka? All right, come up, Ivanka. Come on. She's going to steal the show. She'll steal it. What a beautiful couple. Mike, Beauty and the Beast, Mike. And you know, we have our great ambassador, our new ambassador, who is so fantastic. One of the truly great admirals became Ambassador Harry, so thank you very much, Harry. You're right over here. Thank you. Look at these two.
It is great to be with you all. It's wonderful to get a chance to see such wonderful fighting men and women. Thank you for what you do to serve America each and every day. Bless you all.
God bless America, and God bless each and every one of you for being out here and for everything that you do and your sacrifice and your service. We are very, very grateful to you and your loved ones who serve our nation out of uniform. So thank you.
Thank you both. They made the trip with me, and we spent a lot of time. Tremendous, actually a tremendous 3 days, and it never ends. We have to work hard. We're catching up. A lot of things could have been done over the years, and they weren't done, and we're getting them done. We're getting them done for you. We're joined today by some of the tremendous military leaders that have helped in that process of success. General Robert Abrams. Where's Robert? Abe. Where is he? And you know that great Abrams tank is in his family, named after his father. Did you know that? It's pretty impressive. And his father was very proud of his son. Thank you very much. Thank you, General. We're very proud of his son. He knew from the beginning his son was going to be a winner. And Command Sergeant Major Tagg. Sergeant Major Tagg. Where the hell? Wait, he's got such... You know, they say, don't name his last name, sir. Nobody wants to hear it. They just say, Sergeant Major Tagg. Where are you? Boy, this guy's a legend, I'll tell you. No last names. I know people like that. Lieutenant General Ken Cruiser Wilsbach. Where's Wilsbach? Thank you. And Command Chief Master Sergeant Phil Hudson of the 7th Air Force. Where's Phil? Thank you, Phil. Lieutenant General Michael Bills. Michael, thank you. And Command Sergeant Major Jason Schmidt of the 8th Army. Thank you. Major General Bradley James and Sergeant Major Michael Saucy Doe. Saucy Doe, right? That's good, yes? Thank you. Brigadier General Otto Liller, fighter. Command Master Chief Petty Officer Stephen White, Special Operations. And Command Master Chief Petty Officer Chris Detji, Naval Forces Korea, Detji. Where's Chris? Where are you, Chris? Hi, Chris. I especially want to thank Colonel John Gonzalez. You know Colonel John Gonzalez? Supposed to be a tough cookie and a winner. And Chief Master Sergeant Adam Veazey. Adam. Thank you, Adam. Finally, we're pleased to have with us several of our friends from South Korea this afternoon. General Che. Where's General Che? General Che. Thank you, General. Great job. Deputy Commander, Combined Forces, and I want to thank, I hear you're doing a hell of a job. Lieutenant General Hong Song Chin and Chief Master Sergeant Yi Sung-il of the Air Force Operations Command, and I hear they're very tough. Are they tough? Yeah, they're tough. That's great. To all of the service members from U.S. Forces Korea, today I'm here to tell you that 330 million American hearts beat with the gratitude for your selfless service. We're also joined by many amazing military spouses and families. Those families and those spouses, they keep you going. You wouldn't be the same without them. We know that, right? Sometimes we don't want to admit it. We never like to admit it, do we? But it's so true, right? That's right. Right there. He's pointing. That's right. America is forever grateful for your service and for your devotion. With us today is Master Sergeant Cole Waterbury and his wife, Jamie Waterbury. Where are you? Where are you? Where? Good-looking group. They met when Jamie was also in the Air Force. Jamie served on active duty in the Air Force for 4 years and then joined her husband through 6 different assignments in 3 different countries. Jamie recently earned the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award for her 4,000 hours of volunteer work on behalf of the military community. That's incredible. Jamie, you embody the greatness of America's military families, and we want to thank you. Give her a big hand.
Visiting U.S. President Trump is now addressing the U.S. troops at Osan Air Base as we speak. And U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, as well as first daughter Ivanka Trump, made a cameo appearance. Now, Jong-I, could you give us, point out the main points of his address, although it's not quite over yet?
Of course, at the beginning of his address, he gave a summary. He told the soldiers there how it was, what it was like to have a sudden encounter with Kim Jong-un at the truce village of Panmunjom. He said he had a great time with Kim Jong-un during that 53-minute long meeting. He said it was a very productive meeting, and he once again emphasized that North Korea is a country with incredible with a tremendous potential to achieve incredible prosperity in the future. And he once again highlighted highlighted his great friendship with North Korea's chairman Kim Jong-un, saying that they do get along. He also mentioned that he stepped into North Korea, calling that a very historic moment. And he also spoke about what he was briefed at the DMZ, what he was briefed at the demilitarized zone, saying the hostile atmosphere on the Korean peninsula, the atmosphere which used to be very much hostile before the Singapore summit, actually transformed into a much more peaceful atmosphere on the peninsula. So those are some of the key points that he spoke about his meeting with Kim Jong-un earlier in the day.
What about you, Dr. Goh? Although not much substance came out of his address, which is still yet to be over, how did you see the address so far?
Well, I mean, clearly there's not much of a substance in his message so far. But then I also more like paying attention to, you know, the way he was delivering the message, his attitude and the perception. And it's actually quite a contrast between this remark and the previous press conference that he gave in the aftermath of the collapse of the talks in Hanoi. I mean, in that press conference, President Trump sounded very defensive, obviously, because the talk had collapsed, and evasive too. I mean, clearly there's no any outcome coming out of the summit, and therefore he had to be very defensive and evasive, and it looked actually pretty much very tired. But in contrast, this time he looks actually very confident. His skin is shining. I guess he had a good time, clearly. And then he looks I would say, happy. So, I mean, I don't think it's because, in his conversation with Chairman Kim, he made any major breakthrough in the stalled negotiation with North Korea. But I think that he understands what he got out of it. I mean, he got many things out of it. Clearly, he's the biggest winner of the encounter today. And I think he got, he actually could reaffirm to the rest of the world that the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, puts priority on his relationship with President Trump himself. And also, he actually showed that he doesn't need any intermediary, any mediator or any catalyst for negotiations. He is just one phone call away from Kim Jong-un himself. So this reaffirms the influence and the sway the United States, actually by extension, he himself has over North Korea and the rest of the world. So he has been able to reinforce himself in the center of the dialogue. It's not Kim Jong-un, it's actually him now. So in that sense, I think he got what he wanted out of it, great optics, and he can take home a message to the American electorate that he's totally in control, in charge of the situation.
Well, we have a lot to take in today, but we'll leave things there for now. Thank you so much, Dr. Goh and Chung-hee, for your analysis today.
My pleasure.
Today, we saw a historic encounter between visiting U.S. President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who managed to show up to the DMZ on a very short notice. Their summit of high significance have led to the resumption of stalled nuclear negotiations between Pyongyang and Washington, and hopes are high that we can expect concrete progress in denuclearizing North Korea. A truly historic day for all of us here in Seoul, but we'll leave it there for now. From all of us here at Arirang, thank you for watching, but don't forget to join us again, because we will be back shortly.
작업을 많이 해야 되는 게 일단 기본적인 상황인 것 같고요. 또 알리는 활동들을 되게 꾸준하게 하는 것들도 되게 중요하다고 저는 많이 배웠거든요.
Hawaii, a romantic paradise on Earth. Korean politicians active overseas have gathered together. This is the place where war veterans who gave their lives in the First and Second World War, the Vietnam War, and the Korean War are buried. They stop in front of a gravestone. Kim Young-ok. Engraved below his name is the phrase, "Go for broke."
While the children said, you know what?
It means to fight with all you have.
Fight for America, even though their parents are interned.
Who could this person be?
해외에 살면서 어떻게 성공을 했고 어떻게 적응을 해가지고 영웅이라는 말씀을 들으시면서 살으셨나 그거를 배우면 좋을 것 같아서
외국에 사는 교포들뿐만 아니라 우리 대한민국에 사는 우리 한국 분들한테도 진짜 영웅이 되실 만한 충분하게 훌륭하신 분이라고 생각하고 있습니다.
김영옥 대령이야말로 750만 재외동포와 그리고 5,200만 대한민국의 국민